Gollum's Apology post is said to be the work of ChatGPT. CD Projekt Red spent $125 million to save Cyberpunk, and Redfall actually gets an update. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is GINX News. We all remember the absolute dumpster fire that was Gollum back in May. In fact, it remains the worst rated game of the year so far, and now things are only getting worse. That's because two former employees of Daedalic have spoken out about what happened behind the scenes. And perhaps the most shocking claim is that the apology statement following the game's release was written by none other than ChatGPT. In fact, they said that the developers actually had nothing to do with it at all, and that it was handled entirely by publisher Nacon. Now, little evidence was given to back up the claim, but going by how advanced AI chatbots are these days, combined with how generic the statement was, and I can see why people were quick to jump on the idea. But I personally have my reservations on this one. Yeah, I know they hilariously misspelled the game title in the first bloody line, but if anything, I'd probably say this goes against the argument, as I can't imagine ChatGPT would make a mistake like that. But lucky for us, the juicy goss doesn't stop there. You see, we also got an inside look at the development process, and boy did things get messy. See, the game's original budget is reported to be around 15 million euros, which is already a very modest budget for a AAA game, and apparently due to both budget and time constraints, a load of content was either cut or just bodge jobbed to make the release. For example, in one scene, Gollum eavesdrops on a conversation between two major characters. However, the team never had time to actually animate them, so instead it just contains Gollum looking through a window while the audio plays for the whole cutscene. There was also meant to be an argument system representing the warring voices of Smeagol and Gollum and recreating the shifting camera angles from the films, but again, due to time constraints, Gollum just lifelessly floats there instead, while players just pick a few options of text. Riveting stuff. Now, whether all of these features would have saved the game is debatable. Even with them, it feels like a 6 out of 10 title. At best, it's just that fundamentally flawed. And it's a shame because while it feels like Daedalic were in over their heads and led by a very questionable publisher, their past is ripe with quality point-and-click adventures. Sadly though, they decided to ditch all game development quickly after launch. But don't worry, at least we have Embracer, who seem keen to churn out some more Lord of the Rings games. I'm sure that will go well. A whole ton of CD Projekt Red developers are joining forces with other devs across the Polish gaming industry to create a brand new union. They've been straight to the point with their name, titling themselves the Polish Game Dev Workers Union, and it came about after 100 workers were laid off from CD Projekt Red earlier this year. That included the entire team working on the card game Gwent. May it rest in peace. Now, the union is open to anyone in Poland who is part of the gaming industry, so it's not just developers, and their key aim is to address and improve job security for those working in the sector. Now, CD Projekt Red is yet to respond to the move, although the founders of the union have said that so far there hasn't been any backlash from the company, and that working conditions in general are very good. But that's not the only reason CD Projekt Red is in the news. It's also been revealed that it cost them $125 million to turn around Cyberpunk 2077 after its train wreck launch. The info comes from CFO Piotr Niobovic, who spoke at the recent investor day at the company, and the figure seems quite a hefty sum, so let's break it down a little bit. First of all, you have the expansion Phantom Liberty that just came out. Budget-wise, it cost a meaty $62.7 million to create and a further $21.6 million to market. You've then got all the fixes and updates that were needed on release, to make the game actually playable, and the recent game-changing update 2.0 as well. Just those two combined cost CD Projekt Red a weighty $40.9 million. Well, add that all up and you hit the $125 million mark, and considering the base game cost $316 million by itself, you can see how Cyberpunk 2077 has quickly become a very spenny boy. And all things considered, it really doesn't feel like CD Projekt Red really had a choice here. Their reputation was decimated after the release of Cyberpunk 2077, putting them on track for one of the biggest falls from grace we've ever seen in gaming, and that would have been detrimental to their future games like The Witcher 4, and God knows how much that one is costing. Now, let's not pretend they've completely erased the damage, but Phantom Liberty and the recent update have really turned the game around, and the recent figures show a clear intent to put things right. So for now, I guess we just have to wait until their next title. And you know the drill, if you don't want to get burnt, just don't pre-order. Just last week, we spoke about how the player count of Redfall was down to measly single figures, but it seems like the game has just gotten a big old update nonetheless. Now, Bethesda and Microsoft said it was coming, they pledged to make it a good game, and I just didn't believe them. I thought they were just trying to save face while letting Redfall silently slink away into the realms of obscurity. But how wrong I was. Nope, they actually did it. And the patch is rather brimming. Most noticeably is the new performance mode on the Xbox Series X and S, bumping the game nicely up to 60 frames per second. PC performance has also been improved, you'll be pleased to hear. They've also added stealth takedowns for when you want to be extra sneaky and get a little assassination down. And perhaps the most fundamental thing they've touched is the aiming. Now, when I gave Redfall a go, I could barely last an hour because it just felt so goddamn terrible. Apparently this could be slightly remedied by changing some things in the options, but by God, did the default settings feel horrible. See, I was playing on Xbox and at first I thought I just had some kind of stroke and my motor functions had just suddenly deteriorated. Just aiming and hitting targets felt laborious and sluggish, and it made me just want to hit my head against the wall. Hell, even if the AI vampires worked perfectly and the story was brimming with characters and cutscenes and the world was actually alive and immersive, something as fundamental as just the aiming being this bad would have just killed the game for me. But rant over, they fixed it along with a load of other bugs and features, and that's basically the patch. It's essentially bumping the game up to where it should have been on release. It's still painfully mediocre, and I can't imagine it will see much more love after this. It's destined to now sit on Game Pass for people to scroll through and go, oh yeah, I remember that game, surely it wasn't that bad. They'll play it for a couple of hours, maybe with a friend, then clock off in the evening, parting ways saying, yeah, we should play that again sometime. And then they never do. PC Gaming Master Race rejoice! The latest Steam Next Fest is here. For those of you stuck with home consoles who have no idea what I'm talking about, Steam Next Fest is a biannual event where the platform offers up a whole load of demos for upcoming games. Not only does this mean a bunch of free games to try, but it also means some smaller developers who don't usually garner that much attention have the chance to get their new titles out there. In the past, it's been hugely beneficial to some of the best games over the last few years, including Dark and Darker, Dredge, Cult of the Lamb, and Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, and this autumnal event is shaping up to be another belter. There's Doggy Don't Care, where you play as a dog left alone at home, causing a ruckus, or Checkmate Showdown, which combines chess and fighting games. And then there's A Date with Death, which sees you literally dating the Grim Reaper, because video games are awesome. Starting today and running over the next week, there'll be plenty of live streams from developers as well, showing off their games, and you'll be able to throw questions their way about their latest titles. With potentially hundreds of games to choose from, you might find it a bit overwhelming at first, but keep an eye out on the most popular titles, and I'm sure you'll find something that's up your street. And that's the show. Thanks for tuning in. As always, make sure to like this video and subscribe to get your daily fix of gaming news. Check out Friday's video right here, and we'll see you tomorrow.